Half of the world's population, living and past, including the author of today's second reading, cannot and will not ever know the experience of delivering a baby from within one's own body. Yet the power of observation will have to suffice that it seems frightful and excruciatingly painful. St. Paul borrows this image by stating, "We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now. And we ourselves groan inwardly while we wait for adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies." Many, many fewer people than half of the world's population, living and past, know the pain of hoping and waiting to be adopted by some loving parents. While the pain of their birth gave way to the freedom to live their lives, the lives such people live are marked by an indescribable longing for something which deep inside they know has yet to be brought to fulfillment. These themes are worthy of our consideration today, because whether man or woman, parent or child, orphan or not, our common human nature has us all desire the same thing: freedom. Elsewhere in Paul's letter to the Galatians, he says, "It was for freedom that Christ has set us free." Freedom is an end in itself, because freedom is a prerequisite for love. Love is not love unless it is truly free. Therefore, that saying of St. Paul could easily be tweaked to read, "It was for love that Christ has loved us." We long to be loved, which almost simultaneously reciprocates into the desire to love another in return. In this same passage we heard today, immediately before Paul begins his analogy of groaning in labor pains, he affirms that all of creation hopes to be set free from its bondage to decay and will obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. To the well-tuned theological mind, one might wonder how Paul is able to reconcile two realities. First, that we are supposedly desperately waiting for the freedom which comes from adoption. And second, that in baptism, we affirm that we have already been adopted into this sonship. Presumably, he was writing to a community of the already baptized. So why the reference to still being in this state of longing? Because the inescapable suffering and pain of this life often clouds our vision from always remembering the freedom in which we already live. Hence, we understandably long for eternal release from this forgetfulness. The freedom in which we are meant to be living now is the key to our ability to love and be loved. If we are held in bondage to something, we become incapable of giving or receiving love. Whether bondage to sin, addiction, unforgiveness, or mistaken self-identity, when something other than the love of Christ has a grip on us than Him, we cannot know freedom. In the opening scene of the Disney animated classic, Beauty and the Beast, while the narrator gives the prologue describing the beast's dreadful fate, a very quick glimpse can be caught of a stained glass window in the beast's palace. There is an inscription at the bottom of that window in Latin, which says, Vincit qui se vincit. He conquers who conquers himself. If you are familiar with this story, you will immediately understand what a brilliant incorporation of this phrase is into the film. The beast's entire mission is to rise above his bondage by learning to love and receive the love of another. He despairs, though, because, as the narrator asks at the end of the prologue, who could ever learn to love a beast? Who? Someone who is truly free. When we are free to love freely. We do not let the misfortunes, pains, and sadness of this world hold us captive to the prevention of being able to love. On the contrary, one who is truly free possesses the power to even teach those who do not know how they too can be free to love. The captivating magic of the character of Belle is that she is a free spirit who needs not the approval of the townsfolk who surround her, who needs not to submit to the advances of someone whom she knows does not love her, but only himself, who needs not to love under the condition that she has been shown love first. For obvious reasons, this reference is not made explicit. But I think that being that Belle is raised in traditional old France, we can be sure of her Catholic faith. Belle is living the grace of her baptism. An actual and still living French author, Father Jacques Philippe, has written a short but very important book called Interior Freedom. He says, "The one who allows the grace of baptism to grow in him will live as a child of God in faith, hope, and charity. He will be afflicted, but he will not be bowed down or conditioned by good or bad events. Such a person does not see events in a negative light. Everything that happens in this world is at his service and will help him grow in love and stature as a child of God. Neither circumstances nor the good or bad turn of events, much less the behavior of others, can bring him down. They only foster his true good, which is to love." To live in the glorious freedom of the children of God is to choose to love and receive love in return. This is the mystery of what becomes possible for us in baptism, and what we must grow more conscious of each day as we progress through our Christian journey. We must learn to conquer the world by conquering ourselves, releasing that which binds us so that we can be free to love and be loved. Vincit, qui se vincit.